Hey, everybody. This week's episode is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to be interviewing AfrofishOG, a content creator from TikTok, about one of his favorite game series, Borderlands. So, if that interests you, stick around for the rest of the episode. Hi, and welcome back to Super Wall Jump, a podcast where we interview video game creators and consumers and everything in between. Today, I have.
Afrofish OG.
Hi, Afrofish. So, who are you and what do you do?
That's actually a really good question. So I am obviously a video game content creator. I am big on TikTok. Oh, I feel like I'm pretty big on TikTok. But what I really love doing is I love not only just talking video games and getting people engaged, especially when it comes to like discussions and stuff, but I also love to talk heavily on the gaming culture, the gaming landscape, things that people might not see. I think it's really big that people from all sides of the gaming sphere, especially from the consumer side, gets an understanding of their own side of like what their own gaming cultures, and like how to basically just be a better gamer, if that makes sense. More like more appropriate, more inclusive. Just want to build a good gaming community for everybody to be able to enjoy.
Makes sense. So, what are you here to talk to me about today?
So today we're here to talk about one of my personal, probably I'd have in my top three favorite franchises. So that would be Borderlands itself.
And what is Borderlands for the people that are completely uninitiated and have never played a video game?
Ooh, for those, actually, it's kind of fun. So for those, it is a what is called a looter shooter. A looter shooter would be a game where a lot of times you are a first person shooter type game, and you go through, and as you're beating up enemies, you're leveling up, you're collecting newts of weaponry. Borderlands has always been big on the creativity of their weapons, such as if you've ever thought about, man, this gun is pretty cool. It'd be cool if it shot acid, or maybe it launches some micro missiles. Like, it is, the creativity is always there when it comes to Borderlands, along with the fact that throughout the series always been a little more of a, I'd say, a crude slightly, but always kind of engaging humor, fun stories. It is just absolutely fun time, and I've never had a bad time playing a Borderlands
Yeah.
game.
Uh, Another example of a really fun weapon is what if you had a rocket launcher that in itself was also a rocket?
Exactly. There was one. I was it Tiny Tina's DLC. I think there was a gun that shoots swords.
I haven't played that one, but I do not doubt it. Borderlands really likes to play with the idea of what is a gun exactly? And what can a gun do? And I do appreciate that because it's a lot of creativity in a shooting game wherein most of the time it's like, oh, hey, did you know you could have a different kind of bullet? That's just, it's still a bullet,
Oh
though.
yeah, no, exactly. And that's the one thing I loved with through all the Borderlands game is the creativity has gotten so much more. From the first one where the guns were pretty standard to Borderlands 4 where you are getting all different types of weapons. It's honestly quite insane. But they're always fun because as soon as you do go and you pick one up, seeing like, okay, this is actually pretty cool. It's based off of a loot system ways, so you can start off with the obviously the latest, the weakest, I would say the most original and or common. That's the word I'm looking for. Would be, I believe it's gray, with the most highest rarity being gold. So if you can find a gold weapon, you're usually doing pretty good.
Yes. And that sort of rarity system comes up in lots of different kinds of games. Looter games are quite common. Even you could technically even say Fortnite is a looter shooter because you are looting and also shooting. And it does have, I think, it may not be the exact same, but it has a very similar like color system to tell you, hey, this is a common gun. This is a rare gun. This is an epic gun. This is a legendary gun.
Yes, and I think yeah, Borderlands has been doing that pretty much first ever since it dropped in '09. Yeah, I've don't play a Fortnite enough to really know, but I do believe they actually kind of do the same thing. It's honestly that whole rarity system is, I think it's fairly common in a lot of RPGs. So correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but it does feel like there's a lot of video games that actually kind of have that slight system.
Oh yeah, lots of games have the rarity system because it makes your brain feel good when you're like, "Wow, this gun's rare." 'Cause you feel
Oh
like
my
you
god,
won a little bit.
absolutely! It makes your brain. It does make your brain feel good. I'm not gonna lie. Like you go and you find yourself an epic or a legendary weapon, and it is like I need to try. It's like finding your like the best the favorite stick out in the woods. You're like this is it. This is mine. This is legendary.
Or finding that really smooth rock that you're like, "Oh, I can't wait to skip this on the lake," and then you forget about it.
Absolutely, like no one else is gonna get this. I got it first.
Have you heard the story of how, Borderlands art style came to be?
And not exactly. If I do remember right, they think I thought they did was they switched it from a regular like this more traditional art style to a cell shaded one. It was only like I think believe like months beforehand, if I remember right.
That is correct. It was 2009. Believe it or not, there were a lot of shooters out there, and months before release, they were trying to figure out a way to differentiate themselves, and they happened upon their very unique art style, which is another selling point for Borderlands. Is there's not much really out there that looks like Borderlands does.
No, it doesn't. And that was one thing is the cell shaded was absolutely I mean, it was a great decision. The thing is that not only were there not a lot when I'm trying to think of games back in like '09 around that era, you had the Halo, you had the Call of Duties and such, which were all still a slightly more realistic setting. But when Borderlands came out and dropped theirs, I think it also influenced the whole crude kind of humor that they did because it had that cartoony feel to it. And that alone made the games so awesome. It also, when I start to think about it, I think that that whole more realistic setting just would have worked, especially with some of the jokes that they had in those Borderlands. Especially like when you look at like the intros for bosses, you'd always get some sort of like witty kind of humor. And I'm gonna be honest, I think the realistic side would have just fit. It would have fit at all.
Yeah. Having played the very first Borderlands, it very much has like a Mad Max feel, and I understand if
Mhm.
that's what they were going for with the original art style. But the thing is, Mad Max has been out for like 30 years. People get it. Oh man, there are cars and guns in the wasteland, and there's dust and dirt. Wow, that really sets you apart, huh?
Oh yeah, and there had to be something to stress. Actually, ironic that you mentioned Mad Max because there's an achievement called "Why Can't We Get Beyond Thunderdome?" So, I don't know why I always remember that achievement, but it's just one that I always thought was kind of cool. But I think that was the big thing too. Is art style is huge. I'm planning on doing a video about art style, but it's art style is everything. It helps you stand out, and on top of that, it makes Borderlands, especially even the older ones kind of have own feel to it that makes it more approachable. Even as like nowadays, like Borderlands 1 came out in '09 and it still doesn't look too bad.
That's the thing about art style versus traditional like graphical resolution. If you have a good art style, that will stand the test of time. If you're just chasing the most photorealism you can get, you're going to fall short after a few years. Look at Jurassic Park, for instance, versus the first Toy Story. Jurassic Park 1 is really good because, well, it's all practical effects. And Toy Story, the original one, looks really bad because of how many advancements we've had in CGI.
Hmm. No, very true.
And Wind Waker, if for a video game comparison, look at Wind Waker. Wind Waker has a unique style that everyone loves, and it looks great in 480p as it does as in and it's as good as it is in 1080 or
Well,
4K.
yeah, and that's why like I was talking about before, like games like Hi-Fi Rush, games like Beautiful Joe. They still have their art style makes them, as you said, stand the test of time, and it's awesome because when you go back to it, it doesn't feel so boring. I do like going back to the Tomb Raider, the old like the Survivor series, but yet when I go back to them, it doesn't. It is kind of boring like the graphics don't look nearly as well, and even for some 2013, they look good, but it just has an off feeling to it.
it feels like they were made to chase trends as opposed to make a statement. And being willing to make an artistic statement comes with the risk that people may not like it. Because the thing about photorealism is, are people ever going to hate photorealism? No. But are people ever really going to get super excited about photorealism? Also, no.
Mm, of course.
That's why games like Okami, where you play as, I
Ooh,
believe, a fox god, and you are painting the world, that game stands the test of time because it has a very unique art style, and you can go back to it whenever and be like, "Wow, I know what they wanted to do here."
exactly. Like I look at games also like Ori and the Blind Forest is another one where I absolutely fell in. And when I fall for me, when I fall in love with an art style, it just makes it so much easier to play a game. If you play a game like with more like a realistic art style, especially like I use 2013, or I think it's 2013's Tomb Raider, and you just see a lot of very robotic kind of movement. You see that you can tell that the difference in the graphical fidelity versus something that just is so it's more appeasing to the eye. I think that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, but those games also try to be very grounded, and I think that also does not help them.
No, no, it doesn't.
Because the more grounded you try and make your game, the more it's going to draw natural comparisons to stuff like film and TV, where you can see actors in real life and you're like, wow, this person does not look like this virtual person. Because, you know, models are great, but you're trying to be a thing that you are not. And while that works for some people, like the Uncharted series, that is not broadly your best bet.
No, it's not, and that's honestly just one of the multiple reasons I would say that I really have enjoyed Borderlands itself. Borderlands not only is it something that will stand the test of time because of the art style, but they also have I really just don't care. We're gonna do what we're going to do anyway, kind of approach. And we know that you're going to like it. We know that we're going to go out and we know that we're going to whether it's the humor, whether it's the stories themselves, which for the most part's been okay. Um, but like I think Borderlands are one of those that just they know what their target audience wants and they're going to deliver it with the greatest of ease.
Yeah, and knowing your audience is important. And
Oh yeah.
also, they know that the audience wants to have fun. That's why there's such an emphasis on humor in the Borderlands games, right?
Oh yeah, like humor is huge for Borderlands itself. You can tell they really pride themselves with that. It is more of a, I would say, kind of a pop culture reference, style humor. There's a lot of little references, nods, tidbits here and there. Like I said, it definitely has a crude humor style as well in some regards. There's going to be a lot of there's a lot of like poop and fart jokes. But they're definitely also surprisingly not done in poor taste. Now, just like everything else, the humor doesn't always land. This is one of the big issues I had with Borderlands 3. But overall, I think the humor is something that will always keep people coming back. And honestly, if you can make something funny, people are they're gonna recognize it and notice a lot more.
Yeah, good humor will stand the test of time. Bad humor is picked up and forgotten.
Very much so. Which I've always said that's the big
Yeah.
thing with 3 that I had an issue with.
So I heard people didn't like 3. I never played 3, but that was the general sense that I got. Why did people not like Borderlands 3?
I think it comes down to a couple of reasons. The first is Borderlands 2. We had a fantastic villain in Handsome Jack. Handsome Jack was amazing. If you've played 2, people would know that he's a very in-depth character. He was fun. He was engaging. He felt like a genuine threat the entire time, and that's huge. I mean, you want a villain to be like that. And so when it got to the third game and they started bringing in the Calypso twins, I think a lot of people were kind of like, "This isn't Jack," and so since we don't have them, they already looked into a negative light. Because the one thing you'll see a lot as like positive is the gameplay, but the story will always take a hit. This and writing is tough. I mean, I'm an amateur. Like I'm a very very novice screenwriter myself, and just writer in general. Writing isn't easy. So like I praise the people who can do it well. But however, Borderlands three's writing, especially when it comes to their antagonist, the Calypso twins, were just it was kind of bland. I think they you could tell they really wanted to go into a specific direction with Tyrene and Roy. Um, and I noticed that they just weren't landing. It just didn't. They were more annoying than anything. And while that does serve the purpose of it, it still doesn't. Even if you want your characters to be annoying, if they are just genuinely annoying, there people are not going to like that.
Yeah, it's sort of like the SpongeBob thing. SpongeBob, when you want to watch SpongeBob, can be really funny. But if I knew someone like SpongeBob in real life, I would kill them.
Oh, absolutely. It's the one I always say more than anything is Sheldon Cooper. Like Sheldon Cooper is oh my god, I can only imagine someone like him in real life.
I've met some people that make me be like, "Ah, yes, I understand why I want you to be very far away from me now."
I can only imagine. But like and that's the big thing with like I said, that's the big thing with 3 is the story itself was just not up to snuff where it came to 2. Now like I do think there's issues with two's story, but Jack is what carries it. You don't remember the plot, you remember the character. And 3 the big thing is three's character all remembered for like the wrong reasons.
Can you go into that some more?
Sure. So when it came to Tyrene and Troy, Tyrene is a siren, right? And so like sirens, the best way sirens are pretty much like superpowered beings. There's only 6 of them that can be done at one time. Most of the time they're always women. Um, we've only had technically one male siren, which was Troy, but that was because in they say that he was basically a conjoined twin in the womb that's separated. That works because I guess um,
It does kind of feel like BS when you're like, "Well, technically it was fine because of this." And it's like, "No, but you made the rule for a
oh yeah,
reason,
no, exactly,
sir."
and that's why it's like I had to tell myself, I'm like, this is a game where my gun shoots swords. Like,
I You can just say, "Oh, hey, it's hell. Oh, yeah, well, it turns out we were wrong," or "Hey, he's not a siren. He's just built weird." And you could have just left it at that. That would have been great. It would have been funny and would have left a wonderful little mystery of what do you mean he's just weird? And then you don't go
oh
into
yeah,
it.
no, exactly, and that's the thing you'll see too. There's definitely ways around it. Now Tyrene does come off very much. She is the one in charge. She's the one who has the powers. Troy's powers really are just kind of dependent. He really doesn't even have powers in the beginning. They're just kind of dependent on Tyrene. And so when Tyrene first in the beginning, I guess leads into story spoilers if it really matters. The game's been around since 2019, so uh, if you haven't played it by now, I guess the spoilers, whatever. But so Tyrene's whole thing is that she can leech powers from other people, which she does. She ends up leeching them off of Lilith. So a lot of times, Lilith now doesn't have any powers, and Tyrene is using hers. So she's this big, strong, whatever. But she's kind of just the thing with Tyrene is she's kind of just there. She'll make jokes about you being a fan. She uses this thing called like follow and obey as like this little slogan thing, which just is it's super cringy.
It's
um
very boomer coded.
it's extremely boomer coded. And so she is kind of the I don't want to call her a girl boss because I know that has had like a negative connotation. She kind of is in a way, but like just in a poor taste. She doesn't feel like she does much. Like she takes the powers of Tyrene and or of Lilith, and then like she really doesn't come around until you have to beat one of these creatures, these guardians that are like according to this thing called a vault, which is basically just a big old area where you get more weapons. So then she'll show up, she'll make some snarky remarks, basically takes some powers, and then just kind of dips. And she's not really a presence or feels like a threat in any sense of regard. And that's kind of the issue that I had with it was that with Jack, you always felt like he was kind of watching, but at the same time, he was always engaging with stuff. And with Tyrene, it doesn't really feel like that. So going back to Troy, he's technically a siren because they said he was conjoined, whatever. And he has no powers until they go to fight another character from Borderlands 2, which is Maya, and Maya ends up losing her powers to Troy. Troy actually absorbs her powers. Um, and they're like, no clue how. I mean, they try to say something that he's a parasite or whatever, but like, oh, he's just a parasite. But then he absorbs her powers. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, so how did he absorb her powers? But Tyrene also is a parasite technically too. And so the one positive is that we do see Troy, who's been basically just super subservient to Tyrene, start to push back. Like he is, you see his demeanor has changed, his confidence is growing, and it's this kind of back and forth sibling argument that I thought would be really cool, especially working on making him becoming the main antagonist, and they don't. You end up having a boss fight with him, you beat him, but they have to make Tyrene was the main antagonist, and at that point, I was just like, I just don't care enough about this character, if that makes sense, to really keep going. Like I was like, I enjoyed the game because your gameplay is smooth as butter, but like your story with Tyrene is just I don't care about this character. Like they try to give her kind of a you can understand where she's going with it, blah blah kind of feel, but I'm like, but this is towards the end of the game. I'm like, I just don't care anymore.
And it should be noted that in terms of gameplay, the player character, while you can choose usually between like 4 or more different characters to play as, each with their own abilities and play
Yep.
style, at the end of the day, whoever you play as is sort of just a player insert. They're not going to go and make choices of their own. You are in the driver's seat the whole time. And they basically do whatever someone tells them to do, which is fun. Sometimes they'll have voice lines, etc. But at the end of the day, what you would want, ideally, is for your antagonists, the people that do have agency in the plot, to be memorable and interesting. It's part of why Handsome Jack in Borderlands 2 was so necessary, because without him, it's just a game where you run around and shoot people, and then people say, "Hey, can you go shoot these guys?" And then you go shoot those guys.
Mhm.
But when you have someone to play against, someone with charisma and who's interesting, you get more invested in the story and thus more invested in the game itself.
Exactly. And that's a really huge thing with 3 too, is there's quite a few times where they started really introducing like cutscenes and you're not actually part of the cutscene. Like the moment of Maya's death is you're going through the portal back through it. And when I hit the other side, the cutscene hits and I am apparently not actually there at all. So the cutscene is going on with these other characters and my character just isn't around for that. They definitely corrected that with 4. 4, your character is a part of the world. People do actually go, they discuss stuff with you. When stuff happens in the cutscenes, um I think this is I think that's awesome. I like that they do that because holy guacamole, like there's definitely 3 was frustrating because it just felt like you mentioned much more. It felt like I was just an insert in rather than actually being part of the world. And in an RPG, that's the worst thing that you want.
Yeah, you want to feel like your actions have consequences and can ripple out into the world, because that's why you would play a role playing game. If I wanted to just, shoot stuff, I would play, multiplayer Battlefield or something, because that is take a gun, kill your enemies, rinse and repeat. But you want to feel like you have an impact in the world that you're in and you're playing a certain role, which is where you get the name role playing game.
Absolutely. And so, and that is a tough thing when it comes to immersion. A lot of games do it well. That's the reason why people can get lost. And I mean, let's be honest, the reason why Skyrim is still relevant 15 years or almost 15 years after its release in 2011 is because you can get sucked into that world like it is literally no other. And 3 was one that I would play 3, but I realized the only reason I'm playing it is because the gameplay allows me to. Otherwise, I just was not having fun with it.
We should talk about the plot of Borderlands 1. because that will help sort of set the stage in the world for all of our previous conversations so far. Um, in Borderlands 1, you play as a vault hunter, a guy with a gun who
Mhm.
is trying to access the legendary vault to get the treasure inside because, well, people like treasure and you can, I guess, spend treasure for goods and services. Um,
Pretty much, pretty
However,
much.
it turns out that the vault is actually a prison for an evil alien. And that is the big twist of the first game. Oh, hey, actually, the vault that you cared so much about didn't actually have riches, it had problems inside.
Yeah, and that was the thing. That was the big thing with it was Borderlands 1 is well, it is still pretty good. I mean, it's I don't know if you played it recently, but it's pretty decent to this day. But it is very bare bones. One giant go here to go there. And by the time you get to the ending, I remember playing that and feeling like, yo, what is this? Like like what's going on here? I came in here for some riches and instead I got a giant tentacle monster.
Yes, and most of the I believe every other game afterwards you're playing as more vault hunters. That is the name broadly for the player characters. Most NPCs will be like, "Oh, what's up, vault hunter?" because well, it's gender neutral and works for no matter which character you're playing or if you're playing alone or with friends.
Hmm. No, exactly. Vault Hunter, VH, Elliot I think calls you VH. But yeah, like the four in the four characters, I will say this is definitely a highlight. They've done a really good job at making sure how to play them. Each feels unique in their own sense. In the very first game, there's four characters. Roland was the soldier, and he has a turret that will you can drop and it'll auto fire. Lilith, the siren, who is pretty much I always call her like they call her like the sirens like the mages of the group. Her ability is called phase walking, where she can make herself ethereal, and then spawn back somewhere and create like a sonic boom. Brick, who is just this big dude who runs around with his fists, and then Mordecai, who is a more of a sniper class, and throws. He has Bloodwing, his little bird or whatever that he can toss out. But all of them, I mean, and I want to say all of them are unique.
Mhm.
All of them are cool in their own ways. And as the series have progressed, we've gotten that's the one thing that I will say, I should say that has always stayed consistent is the enemies, or I'm sorry, the characters themselves, their classes have always felt unique, but at the same time could always work together really, really well.
Yes. Well, the writing is not necessarily the most consistent, which is, pretty standard, I think, for writing, even in TV. You will have some seasons that are bangers and some seasons that are just not, even in shows that have been going for years.
Hmm. No, absolutely.
But the gameplay of being like, all right, cool, yes, you are shooting a gun, but the way in which you interact with the world and fight enemies and stuff will change depending on which character you're playing as, has remained consistent and fun. It encourages replayability because, oh man, I played as the sniper guy this time, but next time I'm going to play as the guy that can hold two
Oh my
guns at
gosh, yes.
once.
And so that was Salvador from Borderlands 2, which I thought was awesome. And the thing is that Borderlands really prides itself on making your characters as overpowered as hell. They want you to go level up, make your characters broken if you want to, and keep on going because it's the amount of leveling up and individuality you can do in your skill trees can be quite insane. For example, in Borderlands 3, I played as Amara, and there was like multiple different types of Amara's abilities because she had three, actually four with the DLC, different skill trees to go through. Some of them were featured on melee fighting. Some of them might be featured on elemental damage. One might be more on the defense itself, etc. And each character throughout all of Borderlands, even things like such as the pre-sequel, have always done really well with creating individual. You give you the chance to create your own individual character the way that you want.
Yeah.
And so I would definitely say that, and I'll bring it up before, even though 4 is one that's done it even better. Because 4, not only do you have, I've only had one character so far, which the character is Harlow. Um, she uses slightly gravity powers and such, but how individual the abilities are is huge to me. I'm big on people, players' creativity and being able to make your character however you want. And Borderlands have always done that with like, and always given me a smile on my face for it.
So, you brought up Borderlands 4. And Borderlands 4 has been making headlines, around coming out because of its lack of optimization and also Randy Pitchford.
Oh god. Oh man, there's some things, yeah, and there's definitely some things that are always going to happen. And I've learning more now is that Randy Pitchford will not shut his mouth.
Yes.
Um,
For the record, listener, um, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Borderlands 4 has a hard time running on a lot of hardware. And Randy Pitchford, when asked about it, Randy Pitchford, I believe, is well, I don't want to mess this up. I'm gonna figure out
I think
what
he's
he
the C.
is.
I think he's the CEO of Gearbox.
Yeah, he's the CEO of Gearbox Software. He was like, "Oh, then just get a better machine."
Yeah. That is a slap in the face to anybody who plays video games. And I don't remember the direct quotes, but it was very much like, his first one was about people who were real fans of the game are going to pay the $80, which, to be fair, that's true. Like that is definitely true. I mean, it might not be the nicest way of saying things, but he also wasn't wrong. People who are big fans of the game are usually going to be the ones who are going to pay it at full price or the extended edition. So that one I could never get mad at, but just telling people to just get a different PC because your game isn't optimized enough is, yeah, it's definitely a slap in the face to all gamers, and I don't blame people for being upset.
Yeah, because something to note is yes, as of this recording, which is in the middle of October of 2025, broadly, most video game companies, or at least triple A ones, have decided that it is time to increase prices across the
Yep.
board. Where before the cap was usually about $60, now we're looking at $70 to $80 per game, which is not a negligible increase in cost, especially going from 60 to 80. That's a 33% increase in cost. And I don't know about you, I'm having trouble paying for necessities. I don't want to spend, the cost of another game in addition to just a game in this day and age. Like Silk Song, which released last month, was $20. It's a $20 game. So for the price of Borderlands 4, I could buy 4 Silk Songs.
Right. And that is something that, this is why I kind of agree a bit with surprisingly with Pitchford's take on the, people who are going to really want to invest in this or are really passionate about it or go invest in it. Um so a lot of it, I say this is the prime time for people to be going through your own backlog. This is with the games becoming more expensive, this is the prime time to be going through your backlog, playing games that you probably put on hold. If you can find sales. And you're going to show that you have to, when it comes to these kind of companies, you have to show with your wallet. Because a word alone doesn't mean anything. Like, you have to be like, "Yeah, I'm just not gonna pay for this." And we saw with the uproar, it was going to be $80. I believe they bounced it back to 70, because there was such an uproar on it and people weren't going to buy Borderlands. Which I think is good on the consumer part because, yeah, like, we have to be able to voice ourselves, and if we are not happy with what is being done, then by all means, we need to be able to go and tell them, "Hey, this is wrong." And the only way they speak, they speak in monies.
Yes, which is important to note. However, it's also important to hold video game companies to account, especially in the days where we're seeing mass layoffs basically across the board. It doesn't matter if your game does well or does horribly, you're probably going to get laid off.
Yes, and that is one of the things that I find absolutely abhorrent. Because especially we saw this a lot during 2022. The one I always remembered the most was there was I think it was one of the execs from PlayStation, but I could be wrong. And the dude was talking about all these muscle cars they got because of like how they had record profits, despite the fact they were laying people off. And we're seeing this more and more now where layoffs are happening. They're going to incorporate AI and such into video games, trying to cut costs. But it bothers me, one, because those are those jobs that these high end companies are trying to take away, and two, can't replace that creative freedom, or the creativity of a developer.
Yeah. And raising the prices of games is not in and of itself a bad thing. Many things have increased in price. But the thing
Sure.
is that they're saying, "Oh, we're cutting costs by doing X, Y, and Z, and we're raising the price," but they're not passing the, price increase on to their staff. Meaning, I'd be fine if games cost more if I knew that people would get better working conditions to make them. If I knew, hey, we guarantee there will be no crunch for this game, I'd be like, yeah, sure, I'll pay the extra $10 because I know the people involved in making it were able to have good work life balance and were treated with respect.
Yes, I'm the same way. I'm very much the same way. If you are a company, I believe wholeheartedly, the developers are your heart and soul. They are everything to you if you are a shareholder. You are not. I mean, for I should say, for a lot of those shareholders, they don't play video games. They don't know anything about video games at all. They all they see is the dollar signs that they make, and when things go belly up, the people who get hit the most are those developers who end up losing their jobs. And so if I knew that, yeah, if I knew there was better conditions for it, I'd be more willing to spend money, because I believe wholeheartedly that these developers work insane amount of hours, and don't even get to like sniff nearly as much of the profit that like a game comes through and actually like they get to reap.
Yes. For the record, listener, crunch is usually when a game is close to release and developers, having it be their literal job, are oftentimes asked to perform incredible amounts of overtime. We're talking about like 80-hour weeks in order to get the product finished and out the door.
Hmm.
Now, and many people, well, they know about this, but they accept it as part of the process. They accept that at some point they will have to overwork their staff and oftentimes put out a buggy product even with overworking their staff. And then, as you probably know, Afrofish, they will release patches and stuff to update the game later on because they released it as somewhat of a buggy mess. And the question, of course, becomes, why are you putting these developers through all of this stress to put out a game that you're still going to need to work on instead of just delaying it by 6 months and getting rid of crunch, treating your employees better, and
Yeah,
releasing a
and
better
I think
product?
there's a lot of I've noticed, and with kind of slightly more vague terms, talking to other devs, there's a lot that behind the scenes, whether there's deadlines they have to meet, or or so much money they have or whatever, to make these games. And that is something, is the fact of the developers are the ones who get screwed by the fans the most, right? So the gamers, from the gamer side, from the consumer side, they see that this game's out at like a half-assed level. And oh, it's because these devs are lazy. So you get these devs are lazy, devs don't care, they don't know what to put out good games anymore. But a lot of a lot of those gamers only see it from a consumer side. They're not seeing it from the side of the literal middleman, the one who is trying to make the best possible thing. I wish they could go, like, hey, we could delay this for a couple more months. And I feel like some of the big companies, such as like Rockstar or whatever, have the ability to do that because they already have the funds to do that, but a lot of companies don't have the funds to do that. And so they'll drop what they drop because the shareholders say, "Hey, we want it on around Christmas time." And so they're just like, "Okay, I guess we'll just make whatever." And then when it gets dropped out, BioWare is the one that gets talked to, or Bungie gets talked to, or they also don't give a crap about their customer.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, but also part of being a big enough company means, hey, I can do what I want. But for some people, again, some AAA studios are like, all right, cool. What matters most is not our, our consumer base, it is our shareholders. And that I think is very reflected in Randy Pitchford's statements of, yeah, you guys will pay whatever I ask because you like the franchise. Deal with it. Oh, it doesn't run on your machine? Not my problem. Deal with it. Which is very adversarial considering without your consumers, you don't have a business.
Yeah, and bringing it back to Pitchford, exactly. It is very adversarial, even if he thinks that I'm just telling it because I'm not gonna lie, he definitely comes off as the I just tell it how it is kind of person. But in reality, I think he's just out of touch. He also said that he thought that the Borderlands movie was good. So, I mean, I don't know if
And that's just empirically wrong.
yeah, like I don't believe much in life is objective, but that's one of them. So but it's hard to listen to people like Randy Pitchford, because they feel like they're so out of touch with the reality of what gamers actually go through, and that kind of happens when you have a buttload of money.
Yeah, you become a little bit disconnected from the world writ large. It's very
Yeah,
hard to relate to, oh man, I'm having trouble putting food on the table when, you own multiple cars.
exactly. And like I think there was one of his comments was after the whole like $80 thing, he was just like, "Well, I wouldn't. I had to go work, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Yo, okay." I'm like, "So you just a boomer. Like that's what you are. You're just a boomer."
Hey, are you in there doing bug testing? How many pull requests have you made? I don't think many,
Oh
Randy.
yeah, no, exactly. And that was the thing is my last podcast I did was with a QA tester and how they are the last line of defense. And there's a lot of times where he's like it actually does bother him when games come out into a buggy mess because it's like that shouldn't be a thing. More than likely these QA testers are not getting the time that they need. The developers are not getting the time that they need to actually go and make the best product that they possibly can.
Yes, and that is a serious problem because for a lot of these developers, if they do get fired or if they're contract workers that are brought on to help ship a game and then they're gone afterwards, if the game releases a buggy mess, then that reflects poorly on them. I am an actor in addition to the many other things that I do. If I put on one bad performance and it gets used somewhere, that will reflect on me, even if that wasn't, my choice. If there was a bad director that told me to do a bad job on purpose, no one's going to look at my work and think that. They're going to look at me and my work and say, wow, you suck at
Mhm.
this.
They don't look at anything else aside. I'm a sports player, so I use it in terms of like the quarterback takes all the success, but he also takes all the failure, even if there's even if you have receivers who can't catch and a line that can't hold themselves up.
Yeah, when a team does bad in the NFL, more often than not, people start blaming the players. Not as many people blame the coaches, and the coaches are kind of well, the coaches have a non-negligible part, but we're not here to talk about the NFL because I am not qualified to speak on the NFL. It's why I have a video game podcast.
Understandable.
So you brought up the movie. And listener, you may not have heard of the Borderlands movie, in which case, congratulations. That's like saying, "Oh, I've never drank Everclear." That just means that you've lived a blessed life or relatively blessed. Tell us about the Borderlands
Oh,
movie.
okay. So the Borderlands movie is, and remember, everyone, I want to say this is just from my own opinion as a fan of the series for a long time. So I don't want this to come off. I went into this movie knowing, like, seeing the trailer and all that stuff about it. And when I went in, tried to go in with the most open mind I possibly could, and it just was it was not good. This movie is one of those it's one of those movies that I say, like, who is this actually for? Because this was not for someone like myself. This was not for someone like myself, but Borderlands is as big as it is also not big enough for people who don't know anything about Borderlands. So at some point, I'm like, who is this for? As a fan, I remember seeing the castings, and I was like, this does not sound good. It was like Kevin Hart as Roland, and they did exactly what I thought they would. They made a bunch of short jokes for Kevin Hart because at this point I don't think any writers know how to make jokes for Kevin Hart. I think he just writes his own jokes at this point.
I think Kevin Hart plays one character, which is Kevin
Yeah,
Hart.
I would agree with that. I liked him in Fatherhood, but he's still just Kevin Hart the father.
Yes, and hey, you can have a living as a character actor, but I think if you're Kevin Hart, you should look at yes, grizzled mercenary role. I don't think I'm a grizzled mercenary.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely not. And like it was weird because yes, is in the games is it kind of bland, Roland a little bit? Yeah, a little bit. But he's still an interesting character. That would it led to a thing where they started meshing things in games too. I mean, Lilith was played by Kate Blanchett, which I like Kate Blanchett. Kate Blanchett's a really good actor. This is not the role for her.
Yes. In Borderlands, the role that Kate Blanchett has is for like a 20-year-old. Kate Blanchett is
Yes,
50.
and I don't like. I'm not good with knowing a whole lot of like actors, like when it comes to like their performances. Right, I'm not like an expert on that at any sense of imagination. But when I was watching this movie, she felt very bored. It felt like she kind of
Yeah.
was doing this for a paycheck and just didn't want to be there. And so that could also just come down to like the directing and the writing of it as well. Because I've seen when Kate Blanchett wants to do good stuff, oh shit, excuse me, my language, but like she knocks it out of the park. Um, I think she's an Academy Award winning actress,
Yeah.
anyways. There's a reason why she is. But when it comes to Lilith, yeah, she just was. It was not a good choice. Um, I'll say there's actually two good choices in this film. And that is I can't think of the guy's name who plays Krieg, but Krieg only says like 6 lines, so it's not like it really matters. And I guess technically three because Jack Black plays Claptrap, but it's just Jack Black playing Jack Black.
Yeah. It feels as if the movie did not have a lot of love put into it. It felt like, oh, we can make money making a Borderlands movie. And so they made a Borderlands movie.
Yeah. And I think uh Jamie Lee Curtis playing Tannis actually worked. Like I think Jamie Lee Curtis is actually good as Tannis. Um, because I can see an older Tannis, and like the way that I've seen her, be in other movies before. It works for her. Now, I wish they would have wrote her a little more cynical because that's one thing I kind of like about Tannis is she's a little more. She's kind of just so logical. It's almost stupid how logical she is. Um, but I think she
Mhm.
was actually not too bad. I actually thought that was actually a pretty decent casting. Um, but besides that, yeah, the rest of it kind of just goes. It's a movie made for Randy Pitchford, and everybody else is just kind of in on the joke.
Yeah, it very much feels like a movie made to make money and not because the people involved really loved Borderlands. Because, from what I understand, the action scenes and everything else are just kind of okay.
Yeah, yeah, they're just. I mean, okay at best. Like, you know what gets me is So we had an. I think Borderlands came out in was it 2023? Was it 24?
I can look this up.
I'm looking it up. The Borderlands movie right now. But okay,
2024. It came out last year
wow,
somehow.
it feels like it's been Like
10% on Rotten Tomatoes and 4.7 on
that's fair.
IMDb.
And very much so. Um, and so interestingly enough, there's a couple statements. So one, Randy Pitchford, lo and behold, afterwards went on Twitter and was like, "I don't know why people didn't like the movie. I'm looking for feedback. My mom went to it and she really liked it." And I'm like, "Oh." Then I looked in Randy Pitch, like I was like, Okay, like I see. So you made the movie for your mom?" Like, but the second thing to me was we got another video game movie literally that year, and it was great, and that was Sonic 3.
Yes, which I've met a couple diehard Sonic fans that did not like Sonic 3. However, they are the very vocal minority.
Yeah, I was gonna say, 'cause I'm a big Sonic fan, and I loved Sonic 3. I thought it was as close as we were gonna get to Sonic Adventure 2 as possible.
Same.
And I thought it was overall really good. I found a couple people, this is kinda crazy. I found a couple people who weren't happy with the way that Maria ends up dying. Um, and I was like, "Yo, are," like, they're like, "Oh, I didn't really like the fact that she died in an explosion." I'm like, "You wanted her to get capped?"
I I think that some people are just gonna be mad at a thing no matter what. And I do think that there's a certain proportion of all haters that don't really have any basis. They're just mad because, well, it's very easy to be mad at a thing instead of making your own.
Yes, I agree with that. I agree with that. Like, and that's the thing with board or with the Sonic the Hedgehog is the director. He basically went and made everybody either play or watch Shadow the Hedgehog, rip, and or like in like Sonic Adventure series to actually understand what doing. And that's just something that didn't feel like was getting through with the Borderlands movie. Um, it's just a really interesting that we had two different dynamics, a positive and a negative, just so heavily on one side compared to the other, both of them being in video games, and it just shows that like the passion and stuff like that can really come through. I should say though, to give credit to Borderlands, the costume department and the sets and stuff were on point. Um, those
However, the people on those sets need to do a good job to
Yes,
sell it.
they did a really good job for it. Um, And I think they did awesome with the makeup. Like they had one of them was Moxie, and I kind of forget that Moxie's older anyways. So like when I saw like some lady who's a bit older playing Moxie, I was like, oh, that's right. She'd have to be in like her 50s. Um, but like they had her look really good. All the characters were very on point. Um, it's just one, not everything can translate into a live action movie. I actually would be fine with seeing a Borderlands anthology series.
Yeah, I think that could be good.
Oh yeah, I think seeing other parts of the world and the universe of Borderlands is huge. Learning more about the gun manufacturers, learning more about how the planets and stuff, all them work. Different mentions or portions of like why is Amara called the Tiger of I think it's the Tiger of Ratali, I think it is, or Brutali. How did she get that name? We just, like we there's so much with Borns that we could get in an anthology series, like or like a what if kind of thing, but we probably not.
Well, there's something with the there were story games made by I think the people that did The Wolf Within.
Yes,
Yeah,
Telltale.
the Telltale Borderlands games show that you can make stories set in the Borderlands world interesting. That you
Yes,
don't necessarily need to have just a bunch of really cool guns traipsing around an alien planet and, fighting monsters and getting new guns in order to have the world have meaning and be interesting.
exactly. Um, and that was the thing too about it is also how well they tied in. Now I haven't played new Tales from the Borderlands, but I played the first one, and I thought that it was really good, very well done, and just a really fun time. And it also led to one of the one of the best shootouts ever. I don't know if you played Tales from the Borderlands. Um,
I have not,
okay, it led
unfortunately.
to like a literal finger gun fight, and it is the funniest thing. Um, 110%. If you get a chance, even if you don't play it, just go watch it. It's so ridiculous, but it's so on point for Borderlands.
Yes. Some because hey, making it goofy like that is pretty funny.
Hmm.
Um, but with that, I need you to be honest with me and hold nothing back. What's the best Borderlands game?
I haven't finished it yet, but so far it's been four. Yep.
Mm. Is that just due to gameplay? Is it due to the writing?
Yeah. So
Which one?
it's due right now. It's due to gameplay. Gameplay is a big thing for me, bigger than anything else. And this game plays so smoothly. I love the open world aspect of it. Being able to use my ship in and out to just take off on a planet. The different areas are all really cool. There's a lot of side missions. Now, not all of the humor lens. I've realized this one seems a little more dry, but I'm also not mad because we've had two games of a character who's kind of a jokey villain, right? And the timekeeper is the big
Mhm.
villain in this one, and he is just very serious, very non. And I love serious villains. I think the whole concept that a lot of the guns in this game, because there is 6 or 7 gun manufacturers typically in Borderlands, and each one does their own different things. If you have a Vladov, it's usually a high rate of fire. A Jacobs is high damage, but much more of a Western style. Malawan is an elemental style. Now we have
Mhm.
certain weapons in the four, which actually are combinations. So like I could get a Jacob's weapon that also shoots at a high rate of fire, and oh my gosh, that weapon is amazing. Like, it is absolutely, it is absolutely stellar. Now you could get like a Malawan weapon that also has one called a Ripper, so you have to charge it in order for it to fire. Um, but it shoots out elemental, and the be able to to combine the combination of weapons is so cool. Traversing is at its peak in this one. The story I said is not it's not like the greatest, but it is solid. Um, Overall, this experience has just been amazing, and I think by far it's my favorite of all of them. And but that it was three, despite the story of two and the story of three being lackluster. The gameplay is what made up for it in three, and I don't think I can go back to three very much now after playing four.
There we go. And with that, is there anything else that you'd like to leave our audience off with? Where, for example, where can they find you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So they can find me over on TikTok. That's where I am mainly. AfrofishOG. All of my Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch, all of the same name. I'm starting to do a bit more streaming, not just with Borderlands, but also with I just bought Tekken 8, so I've been like on a Tekken 8 kick. But yeah, those are what you're gonna find me on. I do a lot of live discussions where we talk about different aspects when it comes to gaming, whether it might be just what are some of your greatest accomplishments, or like, hey, with the last one we did, which I probably will do a two on, is the last boss that you fought all of a sudden comes knocking at your door and now wants to fist fight you in real life. And I was like, how screwed are you? So those are the ones that they're fun. I
Mhm.
mean, they're fun. People are really engaged with it, and yeah, those are where you can find me the most at.
Alrighty. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And as always, listener, uh, if you liked this episode, please give us a review, or better yet, tell your friends about it. Tell your friends about Super Wall Jump. Tell them to come and listen. Tell them to huddle around the radio like it's a fire in the middle of the night.